Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Mina, and today I will be presenting on obesity and low-income families within the state of Maine. Just to go over a little bit of what we are going to review today, we're going to do some background on obesity as well as obesity within the state of Maine specifically, the socio-ecological model and obesity determinants that are present within our population, and then finally just some potential interventions and final recommendations about what can be done to help address obesity within this population. So to get started, just a little bit of background on obesity. The definition of obesity is a weight that is higher than what is considered as a healthy weight for a given height, which can be described as overweight or obesity, and there are different classifications for that as well. Obesity is one of the fastest growing health concerns within the United States. Approximately 39.8% of adults in the US are classified as obese, and about 18.5% of youth in the US are also classified as obese, with higher rates in children aged 6 to 19 years old. Individuals and families that do have lower income levels and lower education levels are significantly more likely to develop overweight and obesity. Overweight and obesity does lead to an increased risk for the development of additional health problems such as cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancer, high blood pressure, along with some psychological disorders such as depression, low self-esteem, and it does lead to a lower quality of life. A higher BMI is actually considered an increased risk for premature death and disability. The higher the BMI, the higher the risk for that is. Now, just to go over a little bit of obesity within the state of Maine, let's first look at Maine's poverty rate. In Maine, the poverty rate is 13.2%, and of this, about 9% of that have not completed high school, and about 8% don't actually have access to routine health care through health insurance. The overall obesity rate within Maine is 28%, and rates of childhood food insecurity, meaning that they don't always have access to foods, let alone healthy foods, is 19.8%. Lower income families in Maine do have significantly higher rates of obesity, and this is actually centered in more rural areas, and specifically within two counties, which have the highest rates of poverty, which are Washington and Piscataquis, and both have high reports of obesity within those states or those areas as well. And then looking at childhood obesity within Maine, approximately 25% of high school students are overweight or obese, and of this, about 93% are not attending daily physical education classes, and 23% are actually watching 3 or more hours of TV, engaged in social media or video games per day, and about 6% of kindergartners actually have a BMI above the 85th percentile. So if we look at obesity determinants using the socio-ecological model, this is a theory-based framework that's designed to help us understand the interactive effects of personal and environmental factors to determine behaviors. It can also be used to identify behavioral and organizational points that can be used to promote health within organizations. So looking at obesity determinants for our population on an individual level or an interpersonal level, we have lack of knowledge for healthy eating behaviors, levels of daily physical activity, increased rates of media and screen time, and then genetics. On an interpersonal level, which would be our family relationships, support groups, social networks, we have social support, so how supportive is the environment around you? Do parents model healthy eating behaviors? And how frequently do parents and children interact with physical activity? So how often do they get physical? Do they play games, play outside together? On a community level, we can look at how available calorie-dense snacks and beverages are, so chips and sodas, how much time children have available throughout the day to engage in physical activity, such as gym class or recess, and the availability of safe locations to actually engage in physical activity behaviors, such as public parks, public sidewalks, gyms, etc. On an organizational level, we can look at school policies regarding the foods that are served at breakfast and lunch. So are foods like fruits and vegetables required? Are there school recess and gym class policies available? And in a work situation, are there policies that prevent individuals from getting up from their desk throughout the day? And then finally, looking at obesity determinants on a policy level, we can look at any laws that regard or regarding the purchases of sugar sweetened beverages, like a sugar tax or a junk food tax. Any mandates that schools participate in national school lunch programs. For example, in the state of Maine, schools are mandated to participate in that program. However, they are not mandated to participate in the breakfast program. And then there is actually a current law within Maine that states any food-based fundraisers for schools have to be Smart Snack compliant. So that's a step in the right direction for that one. Now, looking at some potential interventions, family-based behavioral treatment is a form of treatment that's been effective at addressing obesity on multiple levels. So on the individual, interpersonal, and community level, it focuses on providing one-on-one counseling with parents and children, as well as group counseling sessions for parents, educational activities to provide increased knowledge on healthy eating behaviors, positive reinforcement, and then continuous support specifically for parents to help create a healthy home environment. Then we also have internet-based and in-person behavioral weight loss programs. These have been shown to help increase the method of weight loss. So these provide educational activities, a social support system, and self-monitoring for individuals participating within the program. The benefits of an internet-based program is that it allows for increased participation in programs because it takes away any barriers such as lack of transportation or cost. It would provide weekly educational materials, self-monitoring journals, support groups within an online chat group. And my proposal for this would be to do a combination of family-based behavioral treatment and an internet-based and in-person behavioral weight loss program. So just combine the two so that way we can look at providing those services for individuals who don't necessarily have access to that health care. And then finally, looking at a policy-based intervention, we have traffic light nutrition labeling, which has been shown to be effective and is a cost-effective method as well, and junk food taxes and obesity prevention. So just focusing on the prevention aspect of obesity. So just some final recommendations. Northern Light does have a unique opportunity simply because it does have access to the entire state, since they do have facilities across the entire state. Offering a hybrid internet and in-person program that uses family-based behavioral treatment would allow us to specifically target, especially if we look at the two counties within Maine that have the highest rates of low income as well as highest rates of obesity. It would allow us to specifically target those areas by providing educational systems and using the internet to help prevent barriers such as the transportation. It would allow us to have individuals who are qualified to teach that not necessarily have to travel to those areas as frequently. And it would also allow us to hit a higher target within that area all at once. You create a larger support group using an internet-based program, and then possibly just using an in-person part of that, maybe like once a month, just so that you can have that in-person connection as well, and allows individuals to create a social environment within their community. And then as a prominent health agency within the state, Northern Light also has the opportunity to advocate and lobby for policy changes that include nutrition benefits. This can be done at a local or a state level, or even just as a county level. Advocating for some of those nutrition policies, especially at a state level, would help to increase and levels of prevention, obesity prevention, so that way individuals can start to lead healthier lifestyles. Also increasing availability of healthcare for those individuals who don't have routine access to that healthcare is another option for us there. Thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My final slides are just my references that I used for this presentation. So I'm just going to leave these here for a few seconds. And then just a final disclaimer for you. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.